Hello, 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 NoZoupForYou here, and you are watching some Missouri gameplay. Had a pretty good round, did some pretty good brawling, put up some decent damage, so there's a reason that you're watching Battleship gameplay though, and if you've seen the title of this video, it's pertinent. Are battleships currently destroying World of Warships? And I know that is a very, very loaded question. A very, very clickbait title. I'm sure people are looking at this right now, just licking their chomps. They smell blood in the water. This might be a chance to stab wargaming, which I know some people like to do. But I want this to be a very honest and level-headed discussion about battleships in World of Warships right now, where we're heading, where we've come from, and if they're actually good for the game, as they are right now. And I think I have a general feeling that this is going to be a highly charged topic because a lot of players out there love battleships and a lot of players out there don't love battleships. So first and foremost, I want to cover something that the developers spoke of at Gamescom. There's a small little developer diary, and they did touch on the subject of battleships. And they said Wargaming considers there is an overpopulation of battleships, but statistically it's okay. Players want to play more battleships than any other class in general. Wargaming is taking a certain steps, and that's sick right there. Wargaming is taking a certain steps. That's exactly how it was printed. Wargaming is taking certain steps to control the battleship populations, deep water torpedoes, for example. Now, I want to pick this statement apart. I want to delve into this a little deeper. And first, when they say there's an overpopulation of battleships and players like to play battleships, there is a reason for that. And I think we all understand why. And before I go into any of this, I just want to tell you personally, I have nothing against battleships. I absolutely love battleships. I used to consider myself a battleship main until I realized that I was better at destroyers and cruisers. And I think a lot of players would realize that they are as well. However, there are many reasons why players, especially newer players, like to play battleships. And one of them is it's a safety. Battleships are kind of a security blanket, so to speak. You are in a ship that has the most protection against enemy ships. You've got a lot of hit points. You've got a lot of armor. And on top of that, you've got big guns. You can do a lot of damage. So that's probably the biggest reason why new players like playing battleships. It's a safety function. You feel safe in them. You don't feel like you're going to go out there like you do in a cruiser and get torn apart if you make the slightest of mistakes. So I think that's one of the main reasons why we see so many battleships out there. Players just feel safe in them. Now, is this a good thing? I don't think so long run for player development. I think beginners, if they play battleships first, it kind of sets their ways in the way they play. It creates a very passive style of gameplay if not played correctly. If players don't learn how to push, if players don't learn how to tank, or learn the other mechanics of the game, they're kind of setting themselves up for failure. And I think that's a large problem with battleships in general. You can play passive-aggressive, you can play in the back, and you can snipe. But I digress. Those are the reasons players play battleships, I think, or at least I believe. Let's look at this statement again. So we've already said that Wargaming knows there's an overpopulation of battleships. They're okay with it statistically, which I personally might disagree with, but I'm sure they have statistics that we don't have. Players want to play more battleships. Yeah, we get that. They're big. They've got big guns. They've got a lot of hit points, so players feel safe in them. Now here's the part that I want to get into. Wargaming is taking certain steps to control the battleship populations. Deep water torpedoes, for example. That statement right there, in my opinion, is somewhat of a red herring. Yes, we know that deep water torpedoes are coming out, and they are going to significantly affect battleships. We know that they're supposedly coming out with the Pan-Asiatic destroyers, which They are in testing. I've seen one. Super testers are running them, so you see them pop up in-game. Don't know how successful these torpedoes are right now. I really haven't seen anything concerning them. But that's not the piece of that statement that bothers me. It's the wargaming is taking certain steps to control the battleship populations. How? How? You've given deep water torpedoes as an example, but I haven't seen anything outside of that. Case in point, you say in the dev blog that the Italian battleship Roma has been confirmed to come as a premium sometime in 2017. There's another battleship, another Italian battleship coming out even sooner. The Caesar, sorry. The first name of that battleship is escaping my mind right now, but there is another Italian battleship coming out before the much-wanted Roma. So there's two battleships right there off the bat. Key is right around the corner. That is in testing. I'm actually testing that ship right now. I'm playing it. So there's a Tier 8 IJN battleship that will be making its way into our hands as a premium ship very soon. And by very soon, you know, that could be a month or two, but that's soon as far as development goes. So there you go right there. There's two battleships, so 3 battleships. How is that curbing the population of battleships just on the heels of the release of Royal Navy battleships? Yeah, those are in game right now. We have an entire line of even more battleships, and you've seen the results, queues of 100 battleships, which that happens anytime new ship lines come out, but still, that is not curbing the battleship population. If anything, that's increasing the battleship population. And let's be honest, as of late, I'm sure you've been in rounds where you see 5 or 6 battleships, you see 5 or 6 destroyers, and a handful, maybe 1 or 2 cruisers. Things are heavily lopsided right now, and not in the right direction. We're losing diversity in this game on account of battleships. So, you know, you say you're working on curbing the battleship population, but torpedoes aren't going to do that. Deepwater torpedoes aren't going to do that. People are still going to load up as soon as they get detonated or devastating struck in battleships. They're still going to play battleships. Now, if you really want to curb the battleship populations, you need to make limitations on actual server queues. Say, for example, there can only be a max of 3 or maybe 4 battleships per round. How will that help? Well, A, you're not going to have as many battleships in a round, and if the queue times get long for people that want to play as battleships, maybe, just maybe, they'll back out and choose a different ship. So that statement right there, that we're taking certain control to kind of stave off the battleship population and the usage of them, I'm not seeing it right now. Deep water torpedoes aren't the answer. I would like something more proactive, like limiting the amount of battleships you find in game. Until that happens, I don't really think you're going to be able to absolutely control the population. Let's move away right now from the Gamescom developer comments, because there's something else I think we need to look at regarding battleships, and I've brought this topic up before, and that's power creep. And I know everybody gets really touchy when power creep gets brought up, but while I didn't necessarily think it was happening significantly before, with the release of the Royal Navy battleship line, it's almost incontrovertible right now. I mean, seriously, I really don't know how these battleships made it into the game as they are. These things are flamethrowers. The HE rounds on them are absolutely disgusting. And I tested these ships before they came out. Played the Conqueror, knew the HE was insane. Didn't really play the low tier battleships. Of course that changed, starting with Bellerophon. I think I got it close. I pronounced it right in the review I made of that ship, where I said that there was no need to use AP whatsoever. And I think the same goes to say for Orion, and pretty much down the ship line, no one is using AP, which goes against every single thing we've learned in battleships. Right now, if you look at the stats of the Conqueror, the Tier 10 Royal Navy battleship, you're probably going to see that it is far and wide the best ship in the game right now. Now, a week's worth of stats isn't going to tell you very much, and whether or not this is going to level off at some point, we don't know. But right now, as it stands, the ship is far outpacing all other battleships at Tier 10. Even the Yamato. And the Yamato's effectiveness has been reduced significantly because of the Conqueror. And it's that HE again. When you have over a 45% chance of setting a fire per shell, well, there's something, in my opinion, wrong with that. That's just not right. So the Royal Navy battleships as they stand, I don't think they bode well for the game overall. And especially that overpopulation of battleships, when players realize that, hey, I can get into the game, I can just sling HE and snipe from the back and do far more damage at 20 to 25 kilometers than I could with AP. I'm just going to do this all day. I have no incentive to move forward. I have no incentive to push. I mean, I don't need to do anything except sling it. So I think that is the major problem right now with the Royal Navy battleships, and I'm pretty sure at some point we're probably going to see a nerf. Now, will that help curb the battleship population? I don't think so. I think we're going to continue to see the numbers that we see now, and if anything, it might get worse as we add these premium ships, these 3 premium ships that we have coming up, the Key and the 2 Italian battleships, which, granted, I'm glad we have the Italian battleship line somewhat making their way into the game in the form of premium ships, but do I think this is what the game needs right now? No, I don't. I don't think we need more battleships, not at all. We've got a lot of battleships, and I know we've got destroyers coming in. I know we've got the Pan-Asian destroyer line coming in, but really, what are those destroyers? They're nothing more than destroyers that are already in the game in some way, shape, or form. Mostly U.S. destroyers, especially at Tier 10, you know, you got the Allen Sumner class, which is somewhat of a gearing class. It's a little shorter, a little smaller than the gearing, but same ship, same principle. Yeah, they're going to have deep water torps, but we don't know what effect that's going to have on the game. So, wrapping things up as far as whether or not battleships are actually destroying the game right now, as I said, that's a loaded question. Personally, I don't think we're at a point of DEFCON 1. I don't think that we're in a 4-alarm fire stage right now, but there is definitely an overpopulation of battleships. World of Warships has said as much. There are a lot of battleships in the game, but statistically they're fine with it. Whatever that means, we don't know. We just don't know what they mean by that. But personally, I'd like to see less battleships. And it's hard for me to say that because I absolutely love battleships. I love playing battleships. They're a lot of fun when you play them correctly, when you get in the mix with them, when you brawl with them. But the problem is right now, and among newer players, battleships just do not bring that type of gameplay to the game. Players aren't using them the way they need to, and it's inhibiting their growth as players. It's not helping them. This passive-aggressive playstyle where you just sit in the back and you sling HE and Royal Navy battleships. So, no, battleships are not destroying the game right now, but there are too many of them, and the effects of it just aren't what we need in the game right now. And balance is going to continue to suffer until this is fixed. In the meantime, personally, I'm playing cruisers and destroyers more. I'm staying away from battleships. Really, the only time I play battleships is if I need to grind money, I'm going to get in the Missouri. So those are my thoughts on this issue. Wargaming, if you're out there, if you're listening, I would seriously think about limiting somehow the amount of battleships that can queue up and actually get into battle. You know, limit it at 5, hard cap it at 5, or even 4. That will go a long way to help curb the overpopulation of battleships. So, anyhow, those are my thoughts on the current situation with battleships, and this pretty much wraps this roundup. Had a pretty good game. There's the Confederate. We get the W. Battleships, very powerful. A lot of mixed feelings on them. Anyhow, thanks for watching. I am out.